everybody still enjoy your lunch and your dessert? We'll call this meeting to order. We have a very full program. You will greatly enjoy this. So if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now to lead us in the Meninak song is Lyle Keith.
Hope we're not off key.
I will shorten this story in deference to the long program, but about 15 years ago I was in Louisville, Kentucky for business, and one of my friends invited me to his Rotary Club meeting, and everything was pretty similar to what we do, except they don't have a song, and everything seemed very different without that. So let's appreciate the Meninak song and sing a very good version of it today. Maestro.
Tramp, 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 go the marching feet as they tramp, tramp, tramp up and down the street. Isn't the Army, isn't the Navy, it's the people who care who belong to Meninak. So here's to the best in Meninak, shoulder to shoulder, marching along together. Cheers for the goals of Meninak. We're ready to fight with all our might for everything that's right, bringing help where none is available, never retreating from any attack. So use your head and your heart and start to be a part of the number one, the best is Meninak.
Thank you. And I always look forward to John Roberts and what he adds to the song. I appreciate that. And now I'll remain standing for the invocation by Larry Selzen.
Morning, let's bow our heads. Lord, we are humbled by your presence and the love you pour out to each and every one of us every day. We thank you for bringing us together each week to share a meal and fellowship with one another. Thank you for giving our club the ability to provide scholarships, charity grants, and mentors to the youth of our community in hopes they one day become great community leaders of Jacksonville. Thank you for our special guests who provide insight on unique style leadership. May we gain more knowledge and become better leaders for our business and community. In your name we pray, amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Larry. And now, Dawn Motes, our secretary, could not be here today, but Richard Haddon will be here to provide the secretary announcement.
Good afternoon, Meninacs. I stand here as a facsimile, although a rather inadequate one, of our usual and ordinary regular secretary, Dawn. And my first opportunity is to welcome our many guests. We do have a lot today. So first of all, Diana Manel Fanning, would you introduce your guests?
Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce my partner and aunt, Jeannie Terrace.
Bill Bowers.
Today we have Major Thomas McWilliams with us, who is the Area Commander of Northeast Florida Salvation Army. As an aside, his wife, Major Stacy McWilliams, is the Associate Commander. So we have a great family leading one of the great nonprofits in the Jacksonville area.
Scott Hannigan.
My guest today is Mike Pagano. He's with Acosta. He is the Director of Operational Analysis.
Ed Jackson.
I'd like to introduce my wife, Carol Jackson.
Larry Selzo.
Yes, Dan Coley with CDR Jacksonville and
hope to be able to guide youth back on track.
Thank you, Larry.
Lee Smith.
I'd like to welcome the former president and CEO of CSX Railroad, Pete Carpenter, who is retired at this time, but he's also still working on the Board of Regency, Board of Steinmark, and the Board of Sol Energy, a company in Pittsburgh.
Mike White, would you introduce your guest, please?
I'd like to introduce Paz Patel. Paz is the Chief Operating Officer of my company.
Great. Thank you, and welcome to all of our guests. Now, Mike, don't sit down because I'd like for you to make an announcement as membership chair.
I appreciate all the members coming today. We've got great programs every week. If you would, if you're a guest, raise your hand real quick. Now, with your other hand, reach into your pocket and pull out a business card. On the table, you're going to see this little fishbowl. We're going to gather those, and what we've got is a guest prize today I'll be drawing at the end of the meeting, as well as the member that brought you is going to get 2 sweet tickets to the Elton John concert coming up. Oh, wow. So make sure that your guest card is in this bowl. I'll be collecting them in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mike. Michelle Thompson and Bob Hewlett, you have an announcement to make.
Excellent. Hello, I'm very, very excited. Our first mixer is coming up March 19th at the Veterans United Craft Brewery, which is off of Bay Meadows. You can swing back in by 95. We're going to get a private tour. We're going to have samplings as well. The cost is $20. And fantastic little hors d'oeuvres as well. So please come, bring a guest, and sign up outside. Bob,
I just would add that we are buzzing. One of our beers, the Buzz and Bee, just won an award from the Florida Brewers Association. So not only will we have fun, it's good beer. So please come.
Meninak in action. Jim Love, who of course serves on the City Council for Jacksonville, recently appeared in the Times-Union as part of the ribbon cutting for the newly restored South Bank Riverwalk. So thank you for representing the city and Meninak there. Thank you. As always, we want you to turn your special thoughts, your prayers to 2 particular Meninacs who have health issues that they're fighting, Kent Lindsay and David Thompson. And at this time, I want to wish a happy birthday to 3 Meninacs. March 3rd, tomorrow, Ted Pappas. And then March 7th, the aforementioned Jim Love. And on March 8th, John Anderson. And now it is time for our Meninak drawing. And so we'll have 2. And Gary Chartrand, I'm going to ask you if you would please to draw my name, to draw the name on here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And the gifts this time are in both cases wine. All right, good. So our first bottle of wine, a Chevalier de Bayard, goes to Hickory Fant. Thank you. There's nothing like that Bayard vintage. And then this is a Copacabana, and this goes to Larry Cobb. Larry? Thank you. And I will conclude my remarks at the podium with an inspirational quote from Scottish novelist Alexander McCall Smith, who has said, "We stumble. We try our best in this life, but we stumble. Then we pick ourselves up, and the dance continues." So on with the dance. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. And now we're going to recognize our class, our March class of Meninak. So as I read your name, if you are here, please come to the podium. And I'm looking for the list now. Here we go. Marvin Pryor, he joined in 2013. It's his 2-year anniversary. Darren Daly, the year 2011 he joined. So Darren has been a member for 4 years. Carrie Varconda also joined in 2011. He has been here 4 years. We had a good month. And Kerry is director, and he's the chair of our mentoring programs. Tiger Tari, he joined in 2010. He's been a member for 5 years. Dawn Motes, 2008, 7 years. She's our secretary. Bill Cousins, he joined in 2006, and 9 years, and he's our immediate past president of 2014. Loch Ireland joined in 1997. He's been a member now for 18 years. Our own Jim Love. It is Jim Love Day today. It's his birthday and in the news, and now he's the March class. Jim joined in 1996, so he has been a member for 19 years. And Buzz Tyre. Buzz joined in 1986, and Buzz has been a member for 29 years. And so to recognize our members, we like to give out some cards that are commemorate Meninak, and also a payday candy bar, because that is what Kent Lindsay eats all the time. And so he enjoys that, so in Kent's honor, we honor you. Thank you so much. And now we have a new member installation. So I would like to call up Mike White, the proposer.
I'm going to do this a little non-traditional for the first part, just to let us all get to know a little bit more about each other. The new member that I'm introducing is John Murphy. John was born and raised in Jacksonville. If you were born and raised in Jacksonville, raise your hand. Excellent. He's a graduate of Bishop Kinney High School. Any Bishop Kinneys? And in 1998, he graduated from the University of Florida, where he majored in finance, minored in economics. So we'll just stick University of Florida. All right. Now we don't play that game anymore. And then we all have a lot in common, and so we want to share more. Soon after he accepted a job in New York, where he worked as a specialist in equities and exchange-traded funds on the floor of the American Stock Exchange. Along with holding a seat on the MX, John was a consultant on committees for proprietary trading systems, designs, and formulating rules for open outcry trading of exchange-traded funds. In 2005, John made his way back to Florida, where he worked as an investment service advisor for Merrill Lynch before coming to work as an investment manager for BNC Financial in early 2006. John became a certified financial planner in 2008 and a principal of the firm in 2010. His current role for the firm is Chief Investment Officer, where he participates in the development of their investment model, and he oversees the day-to-day implementation of BNC's investment process. John resides in Jack's Golf and is married to Jen, and they have 2 wonderful children. And I would like to welcome John Murphy, but also as a outstanding Meninak, the first thing John said is, I joined a committee when he was here last week. So, welcome John Murphy.
And now, to welcome you to the club, I want to provide you the credo, which you may put in a place where you can read it and memorize it, and we'll test you on it in a month. I think we're kidding. And also your pin, which you may wear every week, and in honor of Meninak and the fact that we are so happy that you are with us, and your badge. So thank you and welcome again, John Murphy. Now I would like to call up Major Thomas McWilliams for a special presentation.
Thank you so much for letting me be here with you. I love Meninak, and I know so many of you through the kettle count that I feel like I know you, and I'm a part of the club already. I wanted to make a special presentation, and I'm going to have Captain Kirk to start coming up this way if you would. During the kettle season, there's a whole lot of components that go in to the kettle drive. Not only the person ringing the bell, but then transferring the money, counting the money, depositing the money, and then spending the money. And each one of those components is very important to the whole of the operation. And Meninak is absolutely the backbone of our kettle counting process. And Kirk is the leader of that backbone process. And I'll tell you that this year in Duval County, we became the #1 kettle fundraising in the whole state of Florida. Now, what that means is, since Kirk was part of all of the counting of every one of those dollars and every one of those dimes, that Kirk counted more money in the state of Florida for the Salvation Army than anybody else in the whole area in the state. So, congratulations, Kirk. And I wanted to take a moment to give him something and to tell him how appreciative we are of your club and for the work that Kirk does. And we thought, bell ring, what could be more wonderful than an etched bell? And it's engraved with his name on it. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
And thanks to all the members who assist in that wonderful work that we do each fall. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks to Kirk, because if you haven't had the opportunity to count the money, carve out a morning or an afternoon to do that, it really is a lot of fun, and Kirk makes it fun. And he also holds us to a very high standard to make sure that we count correctly. Now I would like to introduce our introducer, and John has asked me to make this brief, so I will do my best, but I have to say that I met John Godfrey almost 35 years ago when he joined me for an interview for our Friday evening business program that I hosted on WJCT TV7. The interview was at the old WJCT studios at Main and 8th Streets in Springfield in an old automobile dealership. It was a long time ago, and it was quite the experience. We really had fun. John then was the new chief economist and senior vice president at Barnett Banks, and he had moved to Jacksonville from his previous post as the research officer and a senior financial economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. John served at Barnett from 1981 until 1995, and he then started Florida Economic Associates, and he consulted with a wide range of clients. I can tell you John has been a long sought-after expert by media about all things economics. He made us sound smart as reporters, and sometimes that wasn't easy, John, to make us sound smart. He learned that if the question wasn't well formed, the best bet was to restate it as it should be, and then respond. Correct? Yes. John is a 1964 graduate of the University of Georgia with a degree in economics, and he earned his PhD in economics there in 1976. His many professional and civic organizations, of course, include Meninak, which he joined 31 years ago and served as president in 2003. John is married to Flavel, and his other major interest is his motor vessel, Prime. Ladies and gentlemen, John Godfrey.
Thank you, Karen, and it's mostly all true. The Meninak programs this year have been the finest that this club has seen since at least 2003. We have started off with a very insightful and informative panel discussion on pension reform, and as one of the persons on that said, there's no such thing as a free lunch, a good economic term, but it doesn't solve the pension problem. We've had John Delaney wearing his hat as the president of the chamber, talking about a vision for a city, and I always refer to that as what you want to be when you grow up. We've had Peter Rummel looking at what it means to be a healthy city. Incredibly insightful person coming along to do that for us. And just last week, Steve Halverson talking about Jacksonville and what we could do. He listed several things on there as opportunities for us, and the one that stuck in my mind most is that we would have the best public school system in the nation. We have somebody today that is continuing that visionary insightful, and roll up your sleeves and do it kind of a person. We have Gary Chartrand, and he is probably not as well known as some of these other people, but I think you will find him incredibly intriguing. I first met Gary a number of years ago when Jane Lanier organized a trip through Paris to walk in the footsteps of St. Vincent de Paul. We passed out railroad tickets, and being still jet lagged, hop on a bullet train for South France. By the luck of the draw, Gary and Nancy Chartrand shared the same little booth with us. You cannot go 150 miles an hour down a railroad track with Gary Chartrand in a little small compartment and not get over your jet lag very quickly. Gary is dynamic. He has moved forward in both business and other areas of his life. He's been in food service most of his life, having grown up with 20,000 chickens on his father's farm in New Hampshire. In the wintertime, they sold mostly frozen chickens. Gary is the chairman emeritus, which I think just means that he's old, he still gets paid, and to stay out of the way of the young whippersnappers that are in his company while they do the work. Acosta is his company, and for many people in Jacksonville, you don't know what it is. It is a large company. It has 36,000 employees and 100 offices in the United States and in Canada. It is a marketing company. It goes around and stocks shelves in grocery stores and in drugstores and anything else. It is an interesting company. Gary, as I said, started out in food service, working initially for Carnation and then Nestle, which brought him to Jacksonville. He shortly joined Acosta and has grown this from a small Jacksonville-based company to one that is huge. He has done a number of things, but his passion, however, is public education. He is a member of the Florida Board of Education, which oversees the Florida Department of Education across all of Florida. This includes kindergarten up through the community college system. This is a man that is very passionate about making sure that education is the best that it can be. On a personal level, he has rolled up his sleeves and supported many activities. The Guardian of Dreams schools, the Catholic schools up in North Jacksonville, has long been a favorite. Gary has been active in bringing down the KIPP schools to Jacksonville and helped found that, and he brought in Teach for America. This sounds like to me a very reasonable person, talented, capable in the business world, but with a passion for doing good and bringing help where none is available. I cannot believe that he has a title of a book that's unreasonable. I would think the only person that would say that about you, Gary, is Nancy. Gary Chartrand.
Thank you, John. I told John, make it short, you'll be eating into my time. But hey, it's a pleasure to be here with you and listening to all the speakers that you've had here this year. Thank you for thinking enough of me to have me come down here. This hotel is the place that I first learned about Jacksonville. I grew up in New Hampshire, went to the University of New Hampshire, went to work for Carnation, moved to Portland, Maine. Thank God I'm not there anymore. But in March of 1982, I was transferred to Jacksonville for Carnation. And this hotel was my home for 5 months. This is where I stayed. It wasn't called the Wyndham, I can't remember what it was, but this was my home away from home until I could get my family moved down here. And so I've been in Jacksonville for 33 years, and I wanted to just share a couple of thoughts with you. First of all, I'd like to say I did go on your website, and I'd just like to congratulate all of you for being so engaged in the community and caring enough to make sure that you help where there is none. I think that's what the song said, or something like that. There's not a shortage of needs. And so thank you for doing what you're doing. A number of years ago, I gave a little bit of a talk on Acosta at a Rotary Club in Ponte Vedra, and a guy came up to me after and said, you know, that's a great story, and it's a Jacksonville story, and you need to write a book. And my response at that time was, first of all, you're not supposed to come up at Rotary and solicit your wares. He was a writer. And I said, you know, I'm going to get rid of this guy. I'm really busy. I don't know how to write a book. I'm a food broker, you know. And I said, you know, why don't you call me in a year? I'll probably be less busy. So a year went by, and sure enough, Chuck Day, some of you may know Chuck, called me and said, okay, he told me to call you in a year. Let's have a cup of coffee. And I really respected that. So I went to have a cup of coffee with him and hired him as a ghostwriter and wanted to write this book. One, to tell the story of the company, which is based here in Jacksonville and been here for a long time, but also to try to get across, I think, a sort of a leadership, I don't know if you call it a leadership style, or at least the style that I brought to the 32 years that I was involved at Acosta. So it is called Unreasonable Leadership. In a short sentence, I'd say it's really about leadership that demonstrates conviction and courage to change the status quo, and just to not accept things as they are and make them better. And so that's what we attempted to do at Acosta. And okay, hang on. There we go. A number of years ago, I was inspired by a quote by George Bernard Shaw that basically said, all progress comes from unreasonable people, because reasonable people get comfortable in their surroundings and they adjust to their surroundings, and unreasonable people rebel against those surroundings and they produce progress. And I believe that to absolutely be true. And it's hard to argue with that. But he also went on to say that long-term happiness requires short-term discomfort. That's because in the long run, people are happy only if they are learning, growing, and expanding. Yet in the short term, a person or business can't learn, can't grow, or expand unless exposed to the discomforts of new ideas and new situations. And I believe that also to be true. And that was the philosophy that I tried to take as I was able to, the good fortune to lead Acosta. It takes courage, for sure, and a lot of you know that. I mean, you all know that. And I sort of preach when I talk to at least kids in school that so often we think that we're going to be happy and we're going to be satisfied if we're in this reasonable, safe, and comfortable place. And I call that the comfort zone. And the fact of the matter is that we're not happy there. That isn't what helps us grow and be the person we're capable of being. And so we got to get out of that comfort zone. And that comfort zone will make you stagnant. You've got to push through it. There's a lot of fear at times. There's fear of failure. There's lack of self-confidence. And those are the things that you have to, I think, overcome to be able to move yourself into the growth zone where you can expand upon your potential as an individual. So that's the courage part. I would say for myself, as an example, when I was 21 years old, I really was frightened to be thinking about doing what I'm doing right now. And a lot of people are, right? Public speaking. And so I had to push myself beyond that as a good example of making sure that I push myself outside of the fear zone. And Robert Louis Stevenson said that the person you are today and the person that you are capable of becoming is the only reason that you exist. And I think that's a great statement, right? The person you are today, the person you're capable of becoming is the only reason we're here. And then I think it was also said by Norman's cousin that the greatest tragedy in life is not death. The greatest tragedy in life is the death of what's inside of you while you're still alive. And I think that's also true. And George Bernard Shaw, who understood about the unreasonableness of getting out of that comfort zone and don't give in to the fear that will keep you small, he actually died. He was very old, 96, 97, I think, and his cousin came to him and said, you know, Mr. Shaw, you're so famous, you've been all over the world, you've rubbed shoulders with so many famous people. When you die, if you could come back and be anybody else, who would it be? And he replied that he would come back and be the George Bernard Shaw that he could have been, but was not. And that statement haunts me because, you know, we have one life to live and we want to try to be the best we possibly can and do as much good as we can with our life. So that's the courage part. Conviction, you can have all the courage in the world, but if you don't have a conviction, if you don't have that deep-seated belief of what it is that you want to do, nobody's really going to follow you. And so this whole idea of building yourself confident, understanding and thinking deeply about what are those beliefs, getting out of your comfort zone, being not afraid to take risk, have some boldness about you, resolve to make those decisions, because you can talk about it forever. And there's a great saying that when all is said and done, more is said than done. Right? So at some point you got to decide and you got to go, and then you continue to stand tough and oppose rigor, and then that circle of continuing to look at whether your beliefs are there or not. I'm going to quickly go through some of these slides, but attitude to me is the most important thing. I love optimists. I don't want to associate with pessimists. I try to make sure that at Acosta that we get rid of pessimists, because pessimists do nothing but bring mediocrity to the table. So attitude's really important. What's really important as well is that drive and passion and vision. And Napoleon Hill said it well: a great desire for freedom brings freedom. A great desire for wealth brings wealth. Weak desire brings weak results, just as a small amount of fire makes a small amount of heat. So that drive and the passion and the vision to push yourself forward. And then I think importantly to live and learn and to lead with purpose, to understand why you're here, that you do have a purpose in this world, that we're not a mistake. And it's interesting, I get fascinated by the fact that, this cell phone, I don't know if you guys know this, but this cell phone has a feature on it where I can put my thumb on it and it gets me in and unlocks the cell phone, right? So what that means is that this thumb is different than 7 billion thumbs in the world. Actually, it's 14 because it's not the same as this thumb. Which means that we're unique. And we're not a mistake. I mean, God made only one of us. And so from the beginning of mankind to the end of mankind, there'll only be one of us. And so it's our job to understand our uniqueness and try to use those gifts and talents that we were given to the best of our ability. And no one possesses those gifts that you have. No one has the uniqueness that you have. And it's really not about being better than. Your glory doesn't come from being better than. Your glory comes from being different than. And I think if we think that way, that helps. The best, and many of you I'm sure have read a lot of books about leadership, and the best quote I've ever read about leadership is our founding father, John Adams, that said, if your words, your actions inspire people to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more, then you're a leader, right? And I think it's pretty simple. So I'm going to go through all these, but what unreasonable leaders do with self-confidence and conviction, being bold and take risks, do the right thing, being eternal optimists. It's, by the way, all in the books. If I'm covering this too fast, you can but I wanted to quickly go, because of the time, thank you, John, and just tell you a little bit about my unreasonable journey, because it's interesting, at least to me it is. And so I'll share it with you. I came here in 1982. I joined Acosta in 1983. I was the 90th employee. And what we do at Acosta, just so you know, I know John tried to explain it, but not very well. Even though he's got a PhD. It's not. But basically, we provide sales and marketing services to the consumer packaged goods companies that sell their products in grocery stores and now actually in restaurants or other channels. And so companies like Procter & Gamble or Kraft or Clorox or Nestle's will, instead of having their own direct sales force, they'll hire us, which has huge scale and capabilities to be able to implement their sales and marketing and merchandising strategies throughout the U.S. and Canada. So that's kind of what we do. I was the 90th employee when I showed up today. We actually had 37,000 employees. And I really truly believe that the building of Acosta and the working on building a highly effective organization really revolves around three components. And if you get these three things right, I don't care if it's a business, a church, an organization, or a Meninak club, then you'll be high performing. And that is that it takes great leadership, it takes high quality human capital doing the work, and then it takes a world-class culture of high expectations where mediocrity won't be won't be tolerated. And if those three components are in the organization, it'll be a high-performing organization. So Acosta, when I did a little research on the book, there is a correlation to the bridge. And when I did the research, the company was founded by a guy by the name of L.T. Acosta and Dan Acosta. And their, I think, cousin, St. Elmo Acosta, was either a city council or, I think, a city councilman. And that bridge is named after St. Elmo Acosta. And so that's a hit, that we're connected to the bridge. People always ask me that, if we have any relation to the bridge, so that's it. It was founded in 1927, and for 47 years. It just stayed here in Jacksonville. There were 11 employees 47 years later. And that's kind of the way the business was built back then. It was a very local business, and so for 50 years it was just here. Between 1983 and 1996, when I joined the company, we were working on building out the organization in the Southeast. So I became CEO in 1996. I was president in 1993. So when I took over, we were in 13 states in the U.S. We had built the business mostly through acquisition. We didn't want to leverage ourselves up with institutional debt, so we did most of our acquisitions through seller financing. So we would actually, value a company and have the owner hold the note and pay them out over a 5 to 7 year period. It's actually a good way to finance a company unless you're selling it. So that's kind of what we did. And then when I took over in 1996, something happened. This whole idea of creative destruction and who moved my cheese. Walmart, who many people may know or may not know, Sam Walton actually sat on the board of Winn-Dixie here for a number of years and have learned the food business. And up until that point, they weren't in the grocery business. They were just in the Division I side. And they got into the food business, and they started opening super centers throughout the country, and they were buying everything in Bentonville. And we started to think about what's going to be the ramifications of that. And we thought through, as we did our strategic planning, that other companies like Kroger would also centralize their buying, because Bentonville, Walmart was buying everything in one location, that they would do that, and that there would also be a lot of merger and acquisition activity across the country. And so we quickly concluded that we needed to be national, that this game had changed. It went from a local to a regional to a national company. So I thought one of the best things to do would be to bring our top 10 clients into a meeting and talk to them about an idea of going national. So I did. I brought our top 10 clients into Tampa, and I laid out this strategy to go national, and I asked them a hypothetical question that if we were in fact national and we were the best in every market performing the services, would they appoint me nationally? And not one of them said they would. And exactly what I wanted to hear. And I asked them, well, why not? And they said, for two reasons. One, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. And two, we have relationships with all these food brokers and marketing agencies across the country. We're just not going to fire them and hire you. So that wasn't exactly what we wanted to hear, but we didn't quite feel like they were right. And so we went forward anyway. And so in July of '98, we had bought all these companies throughout the Southeast, and we were levered about 6 times our cash flow. And so we tried to get money from banks to help us finance this national expansion, and nobody would lend us any money because we were already highly levered. And so the only thing that we could come up with was to do a true merger. So we actually did a tax-free stock exchange with a company in the central that had built out throughout the central part of the country. And that was something that was really unique that happened at that moment, because I had a lot of debt, he had a lot of debt. I couldn't buy him, he couldn't buy me, but we could merge. And we all would have a smaller piece of a bigger pie, right? But no new debt. So we put the two companies together. Now, we're representing Tropicana orange juice in the South, and he's representing Minute Maid. And as soon as we do the press release, I get a call from Tropicana and says, you need to get down to Bradenton. So I drive down to Bradenton, and they said, look, Minute Maid is our biggest competitor, and we hate Minute Maid, and we will not allow you to represent them. And I explained, we don't represent them in the South, we represent them in the Midwest. And they said, we don't care, get rid of it. So then I said, well, if I get rid of it, will you give me Tropicana up there then? And they said, well, no, we like the agencies we have up here. It's known as a dilemma. So I call my new partner, and he says to me, that's a problem. I can't get rid of Minute Maid. It's my largest account. So we fly over to Houston, Texas, and I meet a guy by the name of Ralph Cooper. And he's with Minute Maid, and he said, congratulations on your merger. We hate Tropicana. You cannot have Tropicana if you're going to represent Minute Maid. And I explained that we weren't representing them there, and he said, I know, I don't care. And then I asked him, would you give me Minute Maid if I resign Tropicana? And he said, I might. Tell me your plan. So I said, well, we're going to build out a national organization because this business is moving national. Walmart's got the business. Everybody's going to consolidate their buying. And he said to me, I think you got a good plan. He said, I'll tell you what. You resign Tropicana tomorrow, I'll give you Minute Maid. And if you do what you say you do, I'll follow you. I'll be your first national client. And I'm like, this is going a lot better. So he says to me, which I wasn't really prepared for, but he says to me, how can I help you? I said, well, I don't really have any money. We're kind of leveraged. And he said, well, how much money do you need? And I said, $25 million. Sounded like a good number. He said, I'll tell you what, you resign Tropicana, I'll give you Minute Maid tomorrow. Let me go to work on it. I'll see what I can do. We shake hands. I come back home. He calls me up in about 5 days and said, you need to fly to Atlanta. I got an appointment with the CFO of Coca-Cola Worldwide. I want you to go up there and ask him for that $25 million. Okay. So I fly up there. I go to the top floor. I bring out my little pitch book, explain what we want to do. He said, Ralph really likes what you're doing. How about 4% interest? Would that be all right? I'm like, yeah, good. Not really. I'm like, are you kidding me? 4% interest, nobody would lend me a dime. He wires $25 million the next week. If he hadn't done that, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. So, one of the clients that we had in common was the Clorox company. I had it in the South, he had it in the Midwest, and I had an idea. I said, that's great. He lent me 25. Clorox has been a great partner. I'm going to go see my good friend Craig Stutleman in San Francisco. So I fly out, actually Oakland, and I sit down with Craig, and I said, Craig, we need some money to expand. I showed him the plan, and I said, Minute Maid, lent me $25 million. Will you lend me $25 million? He said, are you crazy? I mean, you're my agent. He said, I can't do that. He said, I'd have to go to the board. And he said, now, I could do 10 without going to the board. I'm perfect. So he wires $10 million. So now I got $35 million. And then we went back to the banks, and they finally got the picture, and they actually gave us a lot of credit for $35 million. So it was the $30 million. So I had $65 million to go complete the acquisitions. We bought a company in Kelly Clark that had the whole West Coast. Then we went back up to the Northeast. We bought a company in the Northeast, MAI. Then we went to Texas. We had to save Texas for last because it's tough negotiating with the Texas folks. And lo and behold, in 15 months, we had built out our national platform. And then we went to Canada later in 2002 and bought a bunch of agency up there. So that's our platform for North America. And then we were doing business with all the retailers in the United States, and it didn't matter whether they were buying centrally or decentralized or who bought who. And so that vision that we had that day with basically no money, we were able to go forward, and the universe listened to what we were trying to do and introduced me to Ralph Cooper. And Minute Maid was our first national client. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. And then these are all our clients, not all of them, it's a dated slide, but almost all of these are national clients, all the ones that said they wouldn't fire their other brokers. And the 4 that I have circled were actually in the room the day that we had that meeting with our top 10 clients that said they wouldn't give us the business nationally. And so it was a roll-up consolidation. There used to be, when I came here in 1982, there were 2,500 agencies in the United States. And today there's 3. And Acosta happens to be the leader. And so the industry got transformed. And so, you know, I think back, people ask me sometimes, you know, why do you think you guys are still in the game? And my classic answer is that there were a lot of reasonable leaders. There were a lot of reasonable people that were comfortable, that had made money in the business. They didn't want their world to change, and it was going to change, and they didn't see it, and they didn't take the risk, and didn't move forward with boldness. And so that unreasonable vision and setting a bold agenda and taking the risk, you know, never be afraid to ask, especially when someone asks you, how can I help you? 25 million. Execute the vision no matter what, stay the course when it seems impossible, get the culture right, so important, especially through a roll-up, and I think we did a pretty good job there, and never stop being unreasonable. And then just a few final thoughts. The only things that evolve by themselves in organizations are disorder, friction, and underperformance. And I think that's true. That's why leadership's important, right? Someone's got to be at the helm, painting the vision, getting the culture right, and making sure that there isn't disorder, and that there isn't friction, and that there isn't underperformance. And when there is, you need to move quickly to eliminate it. No executive has ever suffered because his subordinates were strong and effective. You know, you always want to hire people that are smarter than you, that can have a skill set maybe that you don't have, right? And I think that's an important lesson. Leadership's not about charisma, making friends, and influencing people. That's flattery. Leadership's about lifting a person's vision to higher heights, raising performance to higher standards. That's what leadership's about. And quite frankly, the bottom line is about producing results. It's about getting it done, right? Not going through the motions, not saying I tried, actually getting it done. And I think that great leaders make the improbable possible. And I guess my final thought is another quote from Henry David Thoreau, and that is, if one advances confidently in the direction of his or her dreams and endeavors to live the life which has been imagined, he or she will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. And that's kind of been what's happened. I feel like I've been blessed beyond what I should be. It's been a wonderful journey. I've had a lot of help along the way, a lot of people that have supported me, and I have, from the 20,000 chickens in Bedford, New Hampshire, had a chance to live the American dream. And I love America. And I love the opportunities that I've been given, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about education, because in this knowledge economy that we're involved in, you're not going to be able to live the American dream if you're not educated. You have got to get educated. And you don't necessarily have to go to college for a 4-year degree. You can go to FSCJ get a 2-year degree in advanced manufacturing and go over to Vistacon, and they'll start you as a floor technician at $60,000 a year. But you've got to have a skill, and you've got to be able to move yourself forward. So that's why we've been so engaged in education, because I do really want everybody to experience what I've experienced, which is using my own gifts and talents to the best of my ability, producing results and being unreasonable and enjoying the ride. So with that, thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
We have some time for questions.
Gary, can you please talk about the film that you've produced, because I think we ought to hear about that one.
Thank you, Tony. So this